Why do we beat ourselves down in this constraint of originality? If you worry about your creative work not being original, you're not alone. And the root of the problem is in the word, as originality is defined as the quality of being special and interesting, and not the same as anything or anyone else. And in fact, the topic if original ideas exist has been heavily discussed in the creative industry, and the consensus for most is what is important is if the idea is valuable. And today, we're going to briefly debunk this myth of originality and talk about why it's critical for us to understand that nothing is original and everything is a remix. And in particular, we're going to dive into a three-part discussion on some general insights on this matter. We're going to start out with Part 1, the theory of creativity, Part 2, remix and design, and Part 3 is a special section where we're going to go into this concept of innovation in architecture. And to kick things off, we're going to talk about this theory of creativity. Now, the theory of creativity, also known as originality theory, it attempts to explain how some ideas are generated and why some are more original than others. And creativity involves two key components. One being fluency, which is our capacity to generate a large amount of ideas. And two is originality itself. And originality in the creative industry, it essentially boils down to how is that piece of design, artwork, or whatever the content is, unique and distinct enough from what has come before. Now, and what we need to keep in mind that as humans, we are social creatures and we're highly influenced by our environment. It's what shapes us, and it is these experiences that actually instills us with all the knowledge that we use to influence and create our own designs. And this is why it's critical for us to be able to shift that mindset and understand that when an artist or any other creator claims that they're creating something new, in reality, they're abstracting and pulling some form of knowledge from previous inspiration experiences. It didn't just come out of thin air. And even Mark Twain famously acknowledged that there is no such thing as a new idea. We give them a turn, we make something new, we're remixing, and essentially they're just the same old pieces that have been used throughout the ages. However, to be able to generate or create something that is innovative, we need to push beyond our boundaries and to be able to pursue something that is distinct. And this is why it's critical for us, if we are creating something new, acknowledge the fact that we have to know about the old. So learn about the history and field of your particular expertise, gain that tool set, absorb it, and then be able to basically shuffle it up. So in a sense, originality is not about creating something that's completely new. What it is, it's recombining and taking these ideas to be able to put something out that's fresh and something that's just interesting than what we had before. And this segues us into our second part, remix in the design industry. And the idea that everything is a remix is built on this notion that all creative work is built upon previous ideas and influences. And in fact, most original or innovative designs can be rooted in some form of earlier works. Let's take Apple for instance. Steve Jobs famously brought to the world the invention of the iPod. Now, this device revolutionized the music industry as it brought together the worlds of technology and art. Now, what if I was to tell you that the inspiration for the iPod actually dates back over 50 years prior to its launch, and it's inspired by the Regency TR1 transistor radio. And I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty evident when we see the design influence between the two. Moreover, design is a collaborative process. It involves multiple people, perspectives, skill sets, and it's through the combining or recombining of all these different pieces of knowledge and fields that we're able to come to something unique that is put out into the world. And in fact, this was talked about in Kirby Ferguson's documentary video, Everything is a Remix. I highly recommend you check it out. Great video to watch. And in fact, Kirby goes into ample examples within the music and film industries of this remix concept. And for us to look at how evident this is, he points out how around 75% of the most successful box office movies are often either adaptations of books, video games, maybe graphic novels, or they're a sequel, a prequel, or a remake of something that was done before. Essentially, the key to success in Hollywood is to transform the old into new. And essentially here are Kirby's standard elements that are at the heart of the remix concept. First, we copy or appropriate. Second, we transform. And then third, We either combine or subvert the content. Essentially, we're flipping it over on its heels. So I challenge us, rather than seeing copying and remixing as a limitation, just shift that mindset and let's look to it as a source of inspiration for our creativity and work. And remember that we need to copy to be able to build up our creative foundation. That is how we're gonna basically have the assets and tool sets to be able to put out unique content. Otherwise, it's like Spanish artist Salvador Dali said, those who aren't gonna copy aren't gonna make. So embrace this idea of remix culture. That way we can create original content that actually is rooted in our rich history as well as being innovative. And our final topic is about this notion of innovation in architecture. And in the field of architecture, design is all about a constant shuffle and organization and remixing of previous pieces of work. And this notion of where we as architects get our inspiration to be able to shape the built environment is truly fascinating. And we're going to cover this content in this video over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in that video where we'll talk about part 3 of this one, innovation in architecture. And until then, thanks again, and I'll see you there.